Hello and welcome to Cosmic Conversations for the Galactic Alliance on the Conscious Awakening Network. So great to be with you all again, standing in for, I'm co-hosting with Sheila Seppi all this month, but today Sheila had something else on, so I'm doing it solo with the gang. Oh, we've got 41 people online at the moment and counting. So great to see everybody. Hello. Today, I've got a very special guest to introduce you to, another Australian from down under. We've got a couple of Aussies. We've got Paddy's excited. He's up there in Coffs Harbour. We've been chatting to Paddy already before we went live. And I should say, remember to subscribe to the Conscious Awakening Network if you haven't already, or you can go to the Galactic Alliance if you want to receive emails about Cosmic Conversations, knowing what guests are coming up. It's also on the website for the next couple of weeks because it is twice a week, Cosmic Conversations with Sheila and a co-host, and every Monday and Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, which is like a Tuesday and Friday down under in the middle of the day. So it's a lovely day down here in Sydney, Australia today. Let me tell you a little bit about Desley Locke. I had Desley on my show recently. A girlfriend of mine who has another podcast show called Karina Machado introduced us because Desley had reached out to Karina to be on her show. She has a podcast show called Spirit Sisters, but she was going away, so she couldn't interview her. And so I had a conversation with Desley recently on the show, and let me add you. Here she is. Hey, Desley, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
So you're in Toowoomba in Queensland?
In Queensland, that's correct. Yep.
Yep.
Down in the inland from Brisbane.
Yeah. Is it nice and hot up there today?
It's very hot today. Yes, we're having some unusually dry weather. There's lots of bushfires happening in my area at the moment. So
I know we've gone into spring, summer down under, and the fires have started already. I don't know if you all remember a couple of years ago, end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, what a year, right? We had the big fires down under, but there seems to be fires all over the planet, fires and floods. Desi, I might just get you just to pull your computer down a bit so we can see. There we go. We
is
can
that
see a bit
better?
more than your floating head. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, that's better. Otherwise, you're just a floating head. Let me tell you a little bit about Desley and what we're going to chat about today. Paranormal encounters of the third kind. Australian naturopath Desley Locke had never entertained the concept of originating from the stars, but her ordinary life became extraordinary, unordinary, actually, I should say, when her house became a portal for close encounters of the third kind. So she was forced to consider that something more than just demonic forces were haunting her, and maybe there was something else trying to communicate with her, some messages, to bring her messages. So Desley grew up in Stanthorpe, Queensland, on a local stone fruit property. As a child, she had many paranormal experiences and always felt a sense of not belonging and a sense of feeling very different to everybody else, a deep sense of homesickness for somewhere else other than this earthly plane enhanced her feelings of loneliness. And I can imagine that there's a lot of people online that have, felt the same as Starseeds. In 2011, a series of personal disasters, debilitating physical symptoms, and a prophetic dream of a gigantic weather events, which we're kind of seeing already, aren't we, Desley, led to a nervous breakdown, otherwise known in the spiritual terms as the dark night of the soul. More paranormal experiences followed, which became totally and unbelievably out of this world, As more clues were left for her to solve, an intriguing puzzle ensued, which ultimately led Desley to finding that she was a starseed through her astrological chart. Desley was told she would leave a sort of a legacy, as the sign of Leo was in her chart, representing a unique energy with something that she would birth into existence. Hence, she wrote her book, The Legacy of the Starseed Wisdom, Awakening Pure Potentiality to Other Realms of Existence. Well, Desley, as I say, I had you on the show recently, and your story was just blew my mind what was going on. But I don't know if too many people online tonight have actually heard your story or watched the show. Anybody heard Desley's story? Because I think no, I'm getting lots of no's because it was the first time that you shared your story publicly on my show, right? On Accentuate
It
the
was,
Positive.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I would invite you tonight to meet all these beautiful people that are online, because I know that you're in Toowoomba, Queensland, all alone. You've had these amazing experiences, but you haven't had many people to share it with up there.
No, coming out of the closet, so to speak, and trying to find like-minded starseeds, yeah, has been quite challenging. So, and then connecting with you, and then finding that others have had similar experiences, yeah, it makes you feel more of a sense of belonging and that it's okay to talk about these things.
Yeah, you there's a lot of people online tonight on Zoom that have had similar experiences. I know many of them. But let's start from the beginning. Like, when did it all start happening?
Okay, well, I guess I probably need to talk a little bit about my childhood, and that's when the paranormal type activities began as a child. So probably the first time was around about 5 years of age. Um, I was always one of these children or babies born, didn't want to be here. So I used to scream and scream and scream, and no one could pacify me. In fact, in my cot, I can remember being in the cot less than 12 months of age. Um, who remembers being in a cot at that age? And there was a little blanket, a little pinky blanket, and it had scalloped holes, and one of the holes used to get stuck in my little pinky toe. And I remember it as being the most irritating experience. And I asked my mother about the blanket many years later, and she said, "You couldn't possibly remember because you were only a baby." So I had this awareness right from being born, and everything sounded so loud. Mosquitoes sounded like freight trains in my ears. Uh, I'd run through the house screaming because the noise was too much. But this particular paranormal activity began when I used to sleep in a single bed across from my sister's double bunk bed. And when I used to lie on my side, there would be a man under the bed. And he'd be crouching like he was trying to get warm, and he'd be putting cigarettes in his mouth and playing games with me. Um, and I was terrified. I used to just transfixly stare at him, and would telepathically, somehow or other, we were connecting. And I used to scream, get out of bed, wake everybody up. So there's a man under the bed, there's a man under the bed. And obviously they couldn't see anything. And also the pictures on the walls used to the faces used to move and try to speak to me, and again that'd send me running through the house screaming. And it wasn't till years later that I found out that the man under the bed was actually, in fact, a homeless man. Um, the house was abandoned at the time, and yeah, he was trying to light a fire to get warm, and he actually partially burnt down the house and died. Um, so that was my first paranormal experience, and then from there, going to school was very difficult. When I first started school, I couldn't mix with the kids. I was so shy that I used to go and climb up in cupboards to get away from relatives and aunts and uncles, etc., because I didn't know how to connect with people. Um, and then I think when I was about 7 at school, I had my first experience of ASMR. Now, ASMR is what's known as autonomous sensory meridian response. Um, otherwise known as a brain orgasm. So I was not very good at maths at school. So I was having difficulty with the maths equation, and there was a boy next to me in the class, and he offered to help me, which is unusual for a boy at that age. So as he was trying to explain the maths equation, and he was being so empathetic and nice, that was the first time it hit me. It was just the most beautiful sensation that it basically begins at your thoracics, and it moves up your spine. And once it reaches your crown chakra, it just explodes into this absolute beautiful state of bliss. And when you're in that state, all you want to do is meditate and be in that state. But obviously, you've got people around you. It's very difficult. And yeah, you can't, if you're on your own, it's easier, but very difficult when others are around. So eventually the boy hit me in the ribs and said, get back to the maths equation. But yeah, that was the first time I had it. And after that, I used to have it constantly throughout my 20s. And I often wondered whether the other person was reciprocal of it. But I'm over 60 years of age now, and I haven't had anybody else say to me, did the earth move for you as well? It doesn't appear to make any difference of race, culture, ethnicity. It's basically due to with something to do with me, and that resonance of love. So that's something that I find quite unique. Also, you can go on, people do them on videos, and they try to create the same types of soothing effects, but it's definitely not the same as the real thing. So I had that. I've had sleep paralysis in my 20s, where I've left my body. For some people, that is quite frightening, and they feel like they've got a demon sitting on top of them. But I never had that response. I basically left my body, and I was in the kitchen making breakfast, but paralyzed on my body and couldn't move. So that was my first experience with that. I also have a strange ability to resonate with electricity and water. So I can resonate with the copper pipes in the shower, with the electrical wiring overhead. And in the 80s, I purchased a waterbed, which was all the rage at the time. So if anybody sat on that waterbed with me and I touched them, I would basically turn into a vibrator and vibrate all over their skin. My father was a water diviner, so whether I picked up some of that from him, but definitely water and electricity with me is an interesting concept. So all of those sorts of weird things happened in my early 20s up until into my 40s. And then I started to have issues with workplace bullying, financial issues. There was one financial disaster after another. So life became quite joyless at that stage. And then it was 2010, 2011, came into 2011, I started to have issues with my health. I'd contracted parvovirus, and I was quite ill. But it was about 6 months later that I I was heading for the supermarket, and all of a sudden I felt like I'd moved out of my body and I was about to fall over, and everything was moving and shifting, which was quite terrifying. And then it kept happening. And then all of these other ill health issues started to appear. So I lost a considerable amount of weight. I was to the point where I couldn't speak. I couldn't eat. I had saliva basically just dribbling out of my mouth. My eyes looked like the Mad Hatter when I looked in the mirror. They'd gone all weird and strange, like that wasn't me that I was looking at in the mirror. And even my little dog was terrified of me because she couldn't recognize me. And I would shake, and I just had constant tingling just running down my spine, my body, and then I just would just shake in the corner. And I literally just felt like I was dying. And I said to myself, this must be what happens when you die. So then I was going to different specialists and doctors and having all sorts of tests to find out what was wrong with me. Not everything would come back normal. My eyes, I couldn't handle the light. I'd become quite photosensitive, and driving was a nightmare because when I drove and I stopped, everything felt like it was moving. So they put it down to the virus, and I thought, well, that's the end of that. So it's to do with the virus, and I've just got to get over it. So at this stage, I was trying to find ways and means of calming my nervous system and decreasing the anxiety. And I had been meditating, and I asked my meditation teacher about it. And he said, well, it seems to me that you're suffering from ascension flu. And I said, what's that? And he said, your consciousness is raising. You need to relax, be calm, and all will be well. And yeah, that was very difficult to consider. But yeah, so I got back into meditation, tried to relax, and I started to feel what was like feather touches on my face and my head. And then I started to make all these weird movements whilst I was meditating, and my head would just rotate around. It wouldn't stay still. So I started to, because I was meditating and I was starting to become introspective, all of the other worlds were starting to come closer. So it was 2011, and I was starting to get a little bit better, but I was still couldn't eat and had lost so much weight. But I was able to manage to go back to work. And one day when I was coming home from work, I looked down at my belly, and my belly was doing all of these weird rolling movements, and I had no control over them whatsoever. My abdomen just kept rolling and rolling and rolling, and I could feel it all on my body, and I thought, that's really strange. And prior to that, I'd also had a prophetic dream. I lucid dreamed quite often, but this one felt so real. I was walking around at a property that I used to own, and I was looking for the houses and there weren't any houses there. And I searched and searched and I couldn't find any people. And when I came out of the dream, I thought, oh, it must have something to do with the bushfire, because that was quite an apparent bushfire area. And it wasn't until 2011 that I realised what the dream was about. So we had a tsunami here in Toowoomba, an inland tsunami, which is unheard of. But because I have always had this sensitivity and this sentience, even as a child, if I got bitten by a bee, I would feel the effects of that bee for hours upon hours upon hours. And then I would feel how the bee was feeling. So all sensory was always heightened. And because I have this resonance with electricity and water, I was feeling the effects of the tsunami on my belly, the rolling wave-like motions of the tsunami, which became apparent a few years later. So between all of that, I've also had the effect of shifting realities or shifting dimensions. So I was coming home from work and someone was doing a burnout and they lost control and they hit me front on. And I remember seeing this vehicle out of control coming towards me, and I just decided to surrender to the universe, because by this stage I'd had enough. I was sick of being sick and not being able to function. And as soon as I surrendered, I heard the steel on steel. We hit, came to a stop, and I thought, well, I seem to be all right. And the guy in the ute came over and he had a stunned look on his face and he said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I think so, but I don't know about my car." So he said, "Well, start it up and take it over the side of the road." And at that stage, he pinged off. So I thought, oh, that'd be right. I'm up for thousands of dollars of damage. And when I got out of the car to inspect, I just couldn't believe what I was looking at, because there wasn't even a scratch on the car. So somehow I had shifted realities. There was 2 Desleys, 2 cars. And from then on, I started to have a lot of those dimensional shifts. But then a few years after that, that's when the extraterrestrial paranormal moved to more of an extraterrestrial issue. So in my house, I'd gone to go to work, and I went to drive out the driveway, and there was this ornamental duck sitting on the driveway, and I went to get it out of the way, and it looked antiquated. It looked like it'd come out of the ark, and I felt sorry for it. Normally I probably would have just put it in the bin, but I looked at it, I felt sorry for it. I put it on the porch. So then I went to work, and a few days later, I noticed that this duck was moving in direction. So it would go left, it'd go front ways, it'd turn itself completely. And I thought, well, that's a bit odd, because it really hasn't been windy. But I didn't think any more of it until one day it wasn't there. And then I thought, well, that's odd. Maybe some marauding cat or dog or something come and got it. And then I went to put some washing on the line, and there it was in the backyard on its side, and you'd have to take it all the way around the back of the house and throw it over the fence. And I thought, oh. And that should have been it. I should have just put it in the bin. But no, I picked it up and I put it back on the porch. So then I woke up one morning and my umbrella was on the porch, and it was open, and we hadn't had any rain for weeks. And I thought, well, I must have lost it and somebody brought it back and left it on the porch. And I brought it back inside. And then photos started moving. So there'd be photos of me that would be face down on the floor, and ornaments would be shifting. And I thought, oh, it's a bit odd, but still I didn't worry about it. And then I looked at this duck and I went, oh, you're so grubby and grimy, I brought it inside. And then I decided to give it a bath. So don't ask me why. I should have just done it, but no. I got out the suds and I gave it this beautiful clean. And then I looked at these beady duck eyes looking back at me. And I thought, well, I've gone to so much trouble that I put it on the mantelpiece and left it there. And then that's when, yeah, everything went, wow. So my daughter was having a shower and she came out and she said to me, Mum, did you put that handprint on the mirror? And I went, what handprint? And I looked up and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were the biggest hands I have ever seen, but they weren't a print where you would just, how you get the steam and you put your hand on the steam and it creates a handprint. This was like it was behind the mirror and you could see every line on the palm, just like any other human hand. And I went, whoa. I thought someone's in the house, somebody's got in. It's just my daughter and I at the time there. And it, really put the wind up me. I checked everything. I couldn't find any way of anybody coming in. So I rubbed it off, thought nothing more of it. I was out watering the garden, which is in line of that particular mirror in the bathroom. And I looked up and there she was again, except it was further down, but exactly the same hands. And I dropped the hose. I don't know what to make of this. So I left them there and I thought, well, maybe I need to contact a psychic or someone like that who could help me, because the clinic that I was working in had a resident ghost. And they said, well, maybe you took the ghost home with you. So I thought, oh, well, if I get one of them in, and they'll be able to get rid of it. So I contacted these two psychics, and no matter how many times they tried to get to the house, something would happen to them. Their car would break down, or one said that she got bashed up by a spook. She couldn't get there. So yeah, I gave up on that idea after a while, because no matter how I tried, they couldn't get there. Their thoughts were that it wasn't something malevolent. They thought it had an Indigenous feel, that there was something about an Indigenous. So whether my house was sitting on an Indigenous site, they thought the knocking over of ornaments and things was my deceased cats. So, yeah, they couldn't come up with any explanation anyway. So I thought, rightio. So I just left it at that. But then over the next few days, those hands moved over to the sliding door mirror. And it's almost like they waited for me to look up, and then it would just appear. What do I do now, So I'd rub them off and they'd just come back. And as soon as I rub it, it'd be back again, trying to give me some sort of a message. But then the hands, not only those hands, but other hands started to appear. So we had creepy skeletal hands that, obviously like a skeleton, but big, very big, or big shapes of hands that looked like, as you say, you've been playing in dust and you stuck your hand on the wall. and then children's hands. So very similar to the ones that you would see in the caves, the ancient caves, the indigenous caves where you see the hands, very similar like that. Some of them reminded me like the UNICEF symbol. They went round in a portal or a circle, except they were hands, not olive branches. So yeah, all different types of hands, and they were going everywhere, all over the walls, down the hallway, everywhere. And then I looked up at the ceiling, and then all of these symbols were showing up on the ceiling as well. And I looked them up, and again they were similar to the ones you see in ancient caves. So flute ones, wavy lines, cross hatches, petroglyphs, so sort of strange sort of markings as well. Obviously trying to tell a story, which I couldn't understand the language, but they looked like they were drawn in the dust, but they weren't, because you couldn't wipe them off. And then all of these speckly, stars started to appear as well on the walls. And on the other ceilings. And then I've got marks in my clinic here that they look like damp marks, but there hasn't been any water leakage. So they were a sort of a different type of symbol, and they're in the shape of a square. So it's almost like an elevator. So you sort of go up and down. So there was all of this happening, and I don't know, we sort of got used to them. And then my daughter is a huge Game of Thrones fan, so she has the sigils. So she's got the lion, the wolf, and the dragon. And started looking at the sigils, and the dragon one started to morph into an apparition. And it looks like a reptilian. So it has the big head, and it's got the rib cage, and you can actually see the ribs and these long, sort of long and tall, but definitely alien-like. So it showed up with the dragon, and then all of these other things started to go woo-woo in the house. You felt like a dragon was flying over the roof, making these strange noises, and then tobacco smells. You'd get these odd tobacco smells. And at the same time, everything was still moving and shifting, disappearing. Something would disappear and then reappear later. So all of this was going on, and I wasn't really getting any answers to it. And then I was in a crystal shop, and I was summoned to this crystal, and I knew I wanted it, and I was going to take it home. So I took it home, and I started to get into my meditation practice. And I sat down with the crystal, and it started to pulse in my hand. So it was starting to connect with me. And as I was starting to gaze out the window, on the window started to appear what looked like an Indigenous man / lion. So he'd keep morphing. So he'd look like a lion, then he'd look like an Indigenous man. And every time I looked at him, telepathically, he seemed to be trying to send me messages via this crystal, which would pulse in my hand. And at first I thought I was dreaming it. I thought, oh, no, it's just blurred vision or something. But every time I meditated, he would appear. And I'd wipe him off the window, and he'd come again. And then there were others that came as well, some weird looking apparitions that would come, and I would simply wipe them away. But this particular one, he wouldn't go away at all. And then as it all progressed, he started to walk on the roof. At first I thought it was possums, because possums have heavy boots in Australia. They feel like they're making this bumping noise on your roof, and I thought, oh, it's just possums. But after a while, I realised there was a pattern to it. There was a grid he was following. He was marching like a grid. And it was only on one side of the house. It wasn't on my daughter's side. It was only on my side. And he'd do this grid thing every night at the same time. And every time I'd look at the clock, it was usually had the number 11 in it, or it added up to 11. So 11 is my master number in numerology. Always been a very significant number for me. So, and obviously it's part of the awakening process. So he's trying to wake me up to something, and he just kept this marching, wake me up. And then at one stage, he'd only do it once a night, and then he started to do it like on the hour, every hour. And then whatever else was in the house, they decided that they were going to wake me up too. So they used to set the alarm off, the smoke alarm. And they were doing that every 15 minutes to half an hour. And I changed the batteries, and it wouldn't make any difference. The smoke alarms would go off. So, yeah. So I tried to, I thought, well, he obviously is connected to me in some way. Maybe I can telepathically speak to him. So I started to talk to him in my meditation. And with me, I'm very good with a pendulum. I've always used pendulums, but when I go into meditation, I actually turn into a pendulum. So if I ask questions of my higher self, my head will turn yes or no. But once I'm in deep meditation. So I asked the questions I called him Bashir, bringer of glad tidings. It felt a fitting name for him. And he said he was my guardian, my guide, and that he wasn't here to hurt me. He was my protector between worlds. So he used to download me various grids, very indigenous. So I'd start to get all of these downloads, but I was also starting to get the ancient Egyptian golden glyphs, and I was getting those nearly every night. I get the downloads of the golden glyphs. So that all started to happen, and then I learned to live with it all. It's all very strange, but I don't know, we just learned to live with it. But then there was a few things that started to disturb me. We started to have these creepy handprints all over our cars. So when you went out to your car, there'd be all these creepy marks all over it. So you'd go to wash them off, and you get this decidedly earthy, really, really deep, down in the earth smell. And as soon as you wipe them off, then they'd be back again. And there was a claw mark, or two like claw marks, in my daughter's windscreen, almost like they were sandblasted in there. You couldn't move them out. And I sort of started to get a bit uneasy about that. And she went to work one day, and she had a car accident. She was okay, but that really put the wind up me, and she wasn't going to be driving that car anymore. And I thought, well, we need to get rid of it. And I went to move it off the driveway, and underneath the car was two huge obsidian rocks, huge, like not tiny little pieces, big boulders of obsidian. And I thought, how can that possibly be under that car? How did they get there? You know, they'd be worth a few dollars for starters. And then I went to pick them up. I stared at their awesomeness. But then this little voice said to me, remember the last time you picked something up off the driveway? And I went, ah. And this little, I panicked and I picked them up and I threw them. I don't know where they went, but they weren't on my property. I just picked them up and I went, no, no more. Um, and obviously they were for protection. I would say that my shaman man had put them there for protection, but at the time, yeah, I was not listening to my own voice. So I was listening to somebody else's voice. And I threw them away. So that put the wind up me. And then we had a couple of other warning. There was a woman's voice in the middle of the night that woke my daughter up, more or less sending her a message that something was wrong. She ended up with a UTI that she ended up with sepsis. So we only just got to her in time. So that was it was a woman's voice that was warning her. So there was all of that happening, and I was just it was just getting a little bit too much. So then I was in the laundry this particular day. I was on my own. And I was washing away, and then all of a sudden I heard this humongous noise, and I thought, what the hell? And I went out of the laundry and I started to head up the hallway towards the toilet, and that seemed to be where it was coming from. And I turned the corner and I just, yeah, to this day, I just can't believe what I was seeing. So the walls of the toilet were moving like a tsunami, and they were just going in and out and in and out. And this humongous roaring, and the toilet seat was just jumping up and down at the same time. And the toilet was gurgling like something was coming up from the abyss. And I picked up my phone, I fled, I ran outside. I thought the house was going to explode. I thought there must have been a burst pipe, a gas leak, something like that. I tried to ring the council, but I couldn't make any sort of connection whatsoever. And then eventually I got up enough courage to go back inside. I could still hear this humongous roaring noise. So I rang my husband, who was away at the time, and I said, you get a load of this. What on earth is going on? And as I approached the toilet, I said, can you hear it? Can you hear it? Everything stopped. Everything went completely quiet. There was nothing. I said, I need to go to the toilet. So can you hang on till I go in case I go down the toilet? And then as I sat on the toilet and I looked up, there was this soot, like a soot mark, like something had come up from the deep and left this mark. So whatever it was, it got through. So after that, that was when I was starting to think maybe I had a demon, or they were malevolent, and it was all starting to ramp up. So someone that I knew someone that could remote view. So they said, contact them and they may be able to help you. So he said, yes, I don't need to come into your house. I can remote view. You need to go to bed, say a prayer, to Archangel Michael, repeat it 3 times, go to bed, and the next morning ring me and see how it all is. And I thought, right, okay, I'll do that. I really didn't believe that he was going to get rid of this. And yeah, so everything went quiet after that, and the smoke alarm stopped. Everything was good. My marching shaman was still marching on the roof, but none of these other antics were going on, except when they did get thrown out, they weren't very happy. And yeah, my daughter went to bed that night, and she felt like my car was being bashed. she looked out the window and thought, oh, there's going to be nothing left of that car. But yeah, we got up the next day, and whether we shifted realities or not, I don't know, but the car was perfectly fine, even though she insisted that they had done something to the car, and their mournful crying was like really, really mournful crying, like they had been separated from us. So because I have an inquisitive mind, I wanted to know what it was and what was happening. And when I asked him, he refused to tell me. So he said, you need to keep the bad ones out and the good ones in. Don't sage, because you need the good guys to stay in. And he said, if you have any more problems, just let me know and I'll kick them out again. And that really wasn't enough for me. I needed to know more. So I started to ponder the duck. What's the meaning of the duck? Ducks fly in the air and are happy to swoop down onto water and the earth. So they're happy in both places. And I've never been happy in both places. I've always had this feeling of not belonging and not being my authentic self. Always feeling like an imposter, never fitting in with work, always being the one at school that didn't fit in. And I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, well, I'm more top heavy and spiritual, and I don't want to ground to the earth. So I sort of thought about that, and I thought, yeah, well, that makes sense. And then who is this shaman Indigenous man? So somehow or other it led me to looking up star seeds. And I thought, well, what is a star seed? Because of the dragon type apparition, I started thinking reptilians, and I think I started looking at reptilians, and that's how it led me to star seeds. And I looked them all up, and for the first time, I actually felt like I'd found something that I could resonate with. So I managed to find an astrologer in America that did starseed astrology. So I connected with her, and she did my chart for me. And she said there was a couple of unique things in my chart that she felt she needed to give me a more in-depth reading. So she did a more in-depth reading and got back to me, and that's when I found out about my starseed origins, and it's all started to connect. So one of my starseed origins is Regulus. So Regulus is the home of the shaman, the fairies, the unicorns, the fae. So that's the shaman is the bridge between dimensions. So that definitely resonated. And then I also have the Palladians. So the Palladians, I started to speak the light language, and I picked that up as being the Palladian language. I don't speak it automatically. I speak it in my sleep. And when I was in my 20s, I bolted up in bed and gave a speech. My husband thought it was in Latin, but I never did it again for another 20 years. So he was determined he was going to tape it, but I never did it again. So I do have some of the Palladians, the Regulus, Alpha Centauri was another one, which is we're deep thinkers. We're very introspective. I also have Orion. So Orion is very strong in my chart, and so is I've got Moon in Gemini. So the lungs are very associated with the Moon in Gemini, and we have a genetic lung condition in the family that we didn't know about for many, many years. And she felt that there was a lineage of clairvoyants and shamans way, way back where they had to hide. So metaphorically, they hid it at the back of the lung. So there was a lot of family repatterning ancestry that I needed to work with as well. But I also have the Draco. So I have the reptilians. And the strange part about it was that when he did kick them out, I felt that I was being disconnected from something that was part of me. People don't like talking about the reptilians because of their past and their warmongering, but there are good and bad in everything. And it was a case of seeing it more from a non-dualistic point of view. And, they're very good at shape-shifting and interdimensional travel as well. So hence lucid dreaming, prophetic dreaming comes very easy to me. So it was great to find all of that out. And finding that out, the other thing was Mintaka. Mintaka was another one, which she doesn't see a lot in Starseed charts. Mintaka and Regulus don't come up very often. And that association with electricity and water, whether that was part of that as well. But just finding all of that out made me feel that I'd finally reached being happy within myself and being authentic. That it's okay to accept all of this and be who I am.
Incredible story, honestly. Listening to it for the second time, it's just as amazing as the first time, Desley. And I want to ask you a couple of questions. What's Mintaka? Is Mintaka a planet?
It's a star.
It's a star.
Yeah. It's part of the Orion's belt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what you did with the duck, and also, do you want to just bring your?
Oh, sorry. That better? I'll stand up, sit up straight. It's better. Yeah.
What did you do with the duck?
Yeah. Well, when all of this was happening, I wasn't looking at it with a lot of compassion because I sort of put the clues together that this duck had something to do with, but obviously it was a portal. It was a portal of entry to come into the house to wake me up to something that I needed to become aware of. So once I understood all that, it was okay, but I decided that I needed to get rid of it at that stage. But it's one of those, it's got a resin, so it doesn't burn. So what I decided to do was I got some satin cloth, some salt. I put it into a container. I said a little prayer of compassion. I put the lid on it and I buried it. So it was actually buried in the backyard. And over a period of time, it started to raise its head. So it come up out of the ground.
Oh my God.
And it just sat on the container on the top, and I buried it, but it just moved itself up. So I have never been game to take the lid off. It's a bit like Pandora's box. I've put it in and I haven't taken the lid off. So I moved it out of the garden bed and I've just got it in the backyard, contained in the container.
So you think that the duck that was left under your car, like the obsidian was left in your car, created a portal in your house which opened to other realms of existence, and then allowed anyone and anything to come through.
Everyone, come on in.
Everybody, it's a party.
Have a party, yeah. But I mean, it was also that I could work with both the dark and the light.
Right. Okay.
See, most people, if that was happening in their house, they would go, oh my God, I've got to put a for sale sign up. I've got to get out of here. And people were saying to me, you need to get out. Don't stay in there. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
But I never, outside of the toilet, I never felt unduly afraid. It was more a case of inquisitiveness and trying to understand because the symbols on the ceilings were it's a message. It's just I don't know what that message is, but it's like in the caves. What's all the meaning behind that? But I never ever felt, and I felt this connection to them. So no, I've never felt like I wanted to get out and sell up or whatever. But I've also had the Fae in here since. So that there are he's got out certain ones and certain ones are still in here, and I do get alien hands. There was an alien hand in the book, very, very alien on the mirror, but strangely that picture disappeared out of the book. It's no longer in the book. But when you looked at it on the mirror, it looked like that was wearing a glove with gold around the outlines of the fingers. But when you photograph it, it looks completely alien. So yeah, it took on two different shapes. And I've had a little like a Tinkerbell fairy. Had a little fairy in here where I did a video one day and I played it back, and there it was flying past me. I've looked down and my cat's been playing with an orb, well, like an orange orb. So there are other lots of lovely, wonderful entities in here as well. It's just all of them together was probably too much, but the reptilian one with the elongated head in the rib cage, there's actually two of them now. So one appeared and then another one came. And it's almost like a sense of non-duality. Yeah, so yeah.
I know. I'm amazed you didn't go mad or become a drug addict or an alcoholic or something, or get addicted to pharmaceutical drugs like sleeping tablets or something. I'm amazed
it would have been interesting to know what would have happened if the portals hadn't got closed down.
Yeah.
Like, say I didn't get onto this person that could close the portals. Would it have gotten worse? I often wonder. And are the portals completely closed down? Could they open again?
Well, I'd like to put that to the group, actually, because there's a lot of people in the group that know about this stuff and have experienced this sort of stuff. A lot of psychics in the group, and I think personally that you could have closed the portal at any time, but you just didn't know you could. I mean, when this stuff happens, you don't understand that it's happening for you instead of to you.
No.
And
Yeah.
I love that you said you needed to understand working with the light and the dark. So the experience of working with these pesky sort of poltergeist type energies. And yeah, and you didn't run away, you didn't sell the house, you didn't flee, you stood your ground. And although, what does
And
Patty say here? You need a bigger burial hole, he says, for the duck. I'm going to open it up to question time now because we've been going for about an hour. And Carol says, excellent, thank you, Ross. Ross wants to ask, may I ask Desley, who is the Starseed astrologer that you were referring to?
Oh, okay. Well, she's Donna Diane from Celestial Blueprint. You can look up her webpage.
Giving her a bit of a
She
plug.
does quite a lot of starseed charts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. And Patty
And
says
I mean,
he recalls the day that the tsunami and the after effects. I knew a fellow who used to run a big egg farm just outside Toowoomba. He remembers that.
yeah.
Don, do you want to come? Do you want to come on and chat with Desley? Where are you? You want to come on camera? Can I pop you on camera?
Sure, sure. If my internet connection allows it.
Because Don's experienced many. What did you think of Desley's story? Did you relate? I saw you nodding and
I
nodding.
related to so much, and it's such an honor just being able to listen to you, Desley. Thank you so much for sharing. I wish I could just be there and give you a big old hug. I
Yeah,
loved it.
I would give you a hug too. It's just nice to talk to people that, don't think you're crazy. And yeah,
Oh, it's real. It is definitely real. So
real.
thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah, thanks. Yeah.
When you were listening to the story, what were the parts that you related to? And that question of, opening that portal, that poltergeist, so that that poltergeist activity could happen. She asked the question, will it happen again? But I think that,
I,
yeah, what do you want to
just
say to
from
that, Don?
just from my personal view, it sounds like Desley, like you're opening and closing portals yourself to me. Um, or like I put in chat, carrying them around like a handbag, and you've got them with you, and you're just opening and closing them. And when you said that about electricity, oh, I get that so much. And all the poltergeist stuff, I get it. Oh yeah.
You get it. Yeah, yeah. Well, as I say, the more my inquisitive mind looked for answers, then it just took me to the next place with synchronicity. So then I moved into medical intuition, and I found Jean Sheehan, that's a well-known medical intuitive, and she started working with me, and she started working on all of the ancestral stuff and the repatterning of the DNA. And the more she did the grids, the more I opened up. And then that more woo woo started with the shifting of dimensions. So then I would go to bed at night and I'd wake up and I'd wake up and there'd be no bed, there'd be no side table, there'd be no doors, there'd be no walls. And I was just mind and trying to figure out where I am. And then the beings of light, the golden beings of light then appeared, for beautiful, luminescent, golden beings in what I thought was my hallway, but there was no walls anymore. And I mean, I just sat up. Well, I thought I was in bed, but I could have been anywhere. I don't know. And they didn't move, they didn't approach me, and they appeared probably every night for a few months. And then one appeared one night in what I thought was the closet. And I thought, I'm going to go through that closet. So to me, I went straight through this golden being with my dog behind me, went through the closet, came out the other side, went down the hallway, went to the toilet, came back, and all the doors and the walls and the bed and everything had come back. So there was all the shifting of dimensions. So that's what followed from that. So I'm not sure what follows after this, because there, as I say, something leads to something else. So.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, you'll have to go and check out Don's story. He's been on Cosmic Conversations a couple of times, and Stone, you've got your hand up, and yeah, he's been on ATP Media. Where are you? I'm trying to find Stone. Where did you go? I've lost you. Did you put your hand back up again, Stone, so I can? There you are. You want to come? I'll pop you on spotlight. There you are. Hey, Stone. Stone's in New Zealand.
Hello.
We have to unmute you, honey one. You have to unmute.
Hello, once again.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I could relate. I'm sorry I came in late, but what I did hear was like, wow, here's another one. Yep, absolutely. What I've just been writing a chapter in patterns and forms of communication over, like, I've lived in a lot of different homes, and in one home specifically for 15 years. And what I found was every single home I lived in, there was something that happened. Okay, there was some woo-woo that took place. And then when I was focusing on how long I'd been in one particular place, and it was 15 years, I was like, wow. And that I had a lot of everything that I used to get in these other homes, they all came into this one home. Okay, it was like this, it just became, wherever I went, just became a portal to what came in. And it came down to me having to be able to identify when they were coming in, why they were coming in, the energies they were going to, the residual energies that some of them left behind. And I had to learn how to communicate. I've got orbs. I've got orbs that go solid. They come in as a dimension, and then they go solid, and then they take off, and it's like, oh, hi, okay. But I know that it's my energy was used for them to be able to do that. So you are asking a question. You are asking a question about closing them off, stopping them from coming in. For me personally, my findings, you can do that. You nobody needs anybody else to do that for them. If you're not feeling confident within yourself, then go and get the help. Absolutely. But you can do this work yourself just by knowing your inner worth, what you're worth, why they're coming to you. Okay, they're coming to you. They're not coming to everybody else for you to shut them out. That's only going to be limited. They'll keep coming in until you do it. Okay, this is your portal that you opened up. This is attached to your energies. So you travel wherever you want to. For me, it was okay. I've got worth. I've got value. I've got boundaries now, and I need time to do my bits and pieces without all of the fray. I mean, I understand that we are completely inside this magic universe that where there's no breaks from it, there's no privacy, there's this absolute wonderfulness, and it is what we tap into. What you want from it is and just when you're ready to stop them from coming in, they won't come in. When you turn around and say, well, I'm wondering how my friend is on that side, they'll come in. Okay, you are the telling bone. That's what I call it. You are the telling bone. So you know the medicine before the patient comes to you. So thank you for sharing. It was absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to chat anytime. I'll throw my picture up when I go off camera so you can see some of the things that I see.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, Stone's another one. You have to listen to Stone's story. She's just amazing experiences. As I say, you're amongst Star Nation family at the moment. This is why I invited you to come on to my last co-hosting with Sheila for Cosmic Conversations. I'll actually be hosting on Thursday too because Sheila's away, but this is my last co-hosting, and so that you could meet, family. You can meet other people that have had these experiences. You're not alone. But absolutely what Stone says, with all of this, we're in control of what's happening. When this stuff happens to you and you don't know what the hell's going on, I'm amazed with you, Desley, that, as I said, you didn't go crazy, that you stayed curious. I think that is the mark to an enlightened person. Like, stuff happens and you go, wow, that's interesting.
That's
Show
interesting.
me more.
Yeah.
Like, why is that happening? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, because I'm a fairly anxious person, and you would think that your anxiety would get the better of you, but no, I held my own throughout it all. So
throughout all of it.
But
I
yeah,
remember,
and I feel, as I say, I feel that they haven't completely gone away. That I'm connected. Yeah. And as Stone was saying, that you can move into another house and you can bring the party with you.
Exactly.
So
yeah, exactly.
Very interesting.
Saying very fascinating. Never heard this before. But what was I going to say to you? I remember when you were on the show with me that you were talking about how sensitive you were. So many starseeds have this heightened empathy, this heightened sensitivity, and they suffer from it. But one of the things that I'd stuck in my mind is that you said that you could feel the electricity running through the wires of the house, that you were that sensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
the copper pipes in the shower.
Copper pipes in the shower.
Just resonate with that. And one of my ears, the ENT guy said, is like the hearing of a 20-year-old in one ear, which never made a lot of sense.
Wow.
But they did always talk about the high resonance. So like I pulse in front of the eyes. I get this pulsing sensation. And
I love that. I love that bit about being so sensitive that when you reached out to, you received help as a little kid, like for maths. This little boy said, I can help teach you. I can help coach you in maths. And that heightened sensitivity doesn't mean that you just don't feel, you don't only feel the horrible stuff, you feel heightened pleasure and this gratitude or appreciation that you felt sent you into, I think you called it a brain orgasm when you're on the show.
They call it a brain orgasm. It's ASMR.
Something different. So you went into this like heightened, blissful, orgasmic experience when someone showed compassion and kindness to you. I thought that was so beautiful.
And I thought everybody had it. Like, well, everybody must be doing this. And I'd look at them and go, well, hope they're feeling it as well. But yeah, I mean, if everybody could do that, imagine what a wonderful world it would be if we could all be having brain orgasms and blissing.
Don says you can hear the television still on, even when it's off, when the screen's off, you can still hear the television going.
Yeah. I feel the hum. I get the hum, the Mother Gaia humming. Does it other people get that? It's a special sort of a hum.
Well, we're almost at an hour and a half, and I'm going to bring the beautiful Susie up because she's got a song to sing for us. But I want you all to stay online, the people that are on Zoom, because after I finish the live, I'll open it up to questions when we're not being recorded and we're not being live streamed, just to questions for the people that have gathered on Zoom. But Susie, I want to thank you. Stay online because I'm sure there are other questions that people want to ask you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. I know it's not easy to come out, and share this in front of a group. I mean, it was just you and I on Zoom before, and I've thrown you in the deep end and put you in front of all these people. And
I lost my technology, so that didn't help either.
Stuff happens. But I'm going to bring the beautiful Susie on to sing us a song. Susie, what are you going to sing us today?
Well, I usually pick a song that's somewhat related, but this is the one I came up with. But I wanted to say this. You said that Desley, you said the mosquitoes, you could hear them real loud. Teal Swan has hearing like that, and she said you should hear cotton balls when they're moving. We don't hear cotton balls, but she does.
Oh, wow.
So this is what I picked for tonight. I hope it works. Well, I saw this thing coming out of the sky. It had a one big horn and a one big eye. I commenced to shake, and in the center ring, looks like a purple people eater to me. Was a one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. Sure looks strange to me. Well, he came to earth. He hid in a tree. I said, Mr. Purple People Eater, don't eat me. Heard him saying in a voice so rough, I wouldn't eat you 'cause you're too tough. Mr. Purple People Eater, what's your line? Eating purple people, and it sure is fine. That's not the reason why I came to this land. I wanna be in a rock and roll band. Well, this my soul, rock and roll, flying purple people eater, pigeon toe, undertow, flying purple people. We wear short shorts, friendly purple people eater. What a sight to see! There he swung from a tree, hit on the ground, started rockin', rockin', really rockin' around. It was a crazy ditty with a swinging tune, singing boo bop, ba lee bop, ba loo bam boom. He went on his way, and what do you know? I saw him last night on a TV show. He was blowing it out, or really rocking them dead, playing rock and roll music through the horn in his head. He was a one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. Sure looks strange to me. I wanted something funny tonight because I don't know how you lived through this, Desley. That's an amazing story. Love you all so much.
Susie, you were frozen. Your image was frozen the whole time that you sang that song. I know we're having tech issues, which often happens when we're indulging in, supernatural, paranormal experiences. But you look fabulous tonight. Yep. Look at you. She's matching another painting behind her from Sperry Andrews. He does some amazing paintings, and you match the painting. You look so good.
My first degree was in fashion design, so I try to match all of his paintings. Love you all so much. And thank you, Desley. This was absolute magic. Thank you so much for sharing. You are really with family right here. There's so many people that have experienced this. Not quite as much as you have, maybe Ron, but bless you so much.
Thanks, darling one. There she is. Thank you again, Desley. I've muted you, so you'll have to unmute yourself. I want to say thank you. And I've posted on some of the streaming platforms where people can find you on Facebook. And where else can people find you?
I do have a YouTube channel.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Weaver of Esoteric Knowledge, Desley Locke, Weaver of Esoteric Knowledge. I've just started to just read chapters from the book, just on that YouTube channel. So,
yeah. I mean, you've got to get this information out, and just read chapters from your own book is a way to do it. And the name of the book again is
The Legacy of the Starseed Wisdom, Awakening Pure Potentiality to Other Realms of Existence. That's the front cover.
Perfect. God's clapping. Perfect. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining with me again today. It's